Prophet Robbie Warren has just dropped a bombshell, calling out Brian Ka, Sheard, and Bishop Gates in a fiery takedown that's rocking the church to its core. Her explosive revelations aren't just stirring debate, they're shaking the very foundations of holiness standards and challenging everything the gospel community thought it knew. What did she expose that has pastors whispering, congregations divided, and social media on fire? The answers will leave you stunned. This isn't just a clash of opinions, it's a full-blown reckoning that could change the face of modern ministry. In the next few minutes, we'll pull back the curtain on the shocking claims, the leaders at the center of the storm, and why Prophet Warren's words have struck such a nerve. From hidden truths to deep-rooted tensions, this is the controversy everyone will be talking about, and you're about to hear it all. Stay tuned, because this is the unfiltered truth they don't want you to hear. Welcome back to the channel, where we bring you the stories shaking the gospel world to its core. Today, we're stepping straight into a firestorm. Prophet Robbie Warren has unleashed a blistering rebuke aimed at three of gospel's most recognized figures: Brian Ka, Sheard, and Bishop Gates. The battleground? Holiness standards. This isn't your typical church squabble. This is a full-on challenge to the very foundation of what gospel music and ministry stand for. Robbie's fiery words accuse some of compromising the message, watering down the truth, and trading timeless principles for popularity. And the reactions? Explosive. We're talking divided congregations, heated debates online, and a wave of backlash that's spreading fast. In this video, we're breaking down exactly what Prophet Robbie said, the deeper history fueling her outrage, and why her statements have sent shockwaves through the gospel community. We'll reveal the behind-the-scenes tensions, the private conversations that sparked this public confrontation, and the powerful responses from both supporters and critics. This is not just about one prophet speaking her mind. This is about a reckoning in gospel culture that could redefine the lines between conviction and compromise. Buckle up, because what you're about to hear will make you see the gospel world in a way you never have before. A well-known prophetic voice, Robbie Warren is a clergyman recognized for his audacity and unyielding teachings. Her fervent sermons, prophetic insights, and willingness to take on difficult subjects head-on, particularly those pertaining to holiness and spiritual integrity, have helped her gain a following. Calling believers back to the fundamental values of holiness, righteousness, and unshakable devotion to God's standards is at the heart of her work. Robbie isn't afraid to take on spiritual compromise. Additionally, she has frequently expressed her opinion about what she sees as a departure from authentic biblical holiness. Many people in the gospel world listen to her when she talks because of her reputation. However, not everyone shares her message or style. She is regarded by some as an essential prophetic voice. She is seen as polarizing by some. This background is crucial because it explains why her recent remarks on Bishop Gates, Sheard, and Brian Ka caused such a stir. These are not merely remarkable critiques. They have the capacity to confront some of the most reputable figures in the gospel and originate from a place of strong conviction. We'll go over Robbie's exact words, the holiness standards she feels are being violated, and why this has caused a stir in the community in the next section. The gospel music industry has been rocked by Prophet Robbie Warren's recent comments, which are all focused on holiness standards. However, what specifically did she say that sparked such controversy? Robbie accused Bishop Gates, Sheard, and Brian Ka of undermining the exact holiness standards that she feels the church should maintain in her scathing and unrepentant speech. She questioned their ministry decisions, way of life, and even whether their deeds were consistent with what the Bible meant by holiness. Robbie maintained that the church had become overly forgiving, enabling the holy call to holiness to be diluted by cultural influences and individual aspirations. She underlined that certain leaders in the gospel community are failing to recognize the attributes necessary for authentic holiness, which include discipline, sacrifice, and a rejection of worldly habits. She specifically criticized these gospel giants for what she believes to be their inability to live out these values, pointing out instances in which she believed they had compromised in their ministry messaging or personal lives. She didn't publicly identify each case, but both her supporters and detractors soon made the connection. Her remarks, which warned that neglecting holiness standards could have spiritual repercussions for both the individuals implicated and the larger church community, were delivered with a prophetic urgency. As a result of this open discussion, many admirers of Bishop Gates, J. Drew Sheard, and Brian Kay felt obliged to reply. While some questioned Robbie's harsh tone, others defended their favorite singers. Now, the gospel community is divided. Robbie Warren's supporters applaud her bravery in speaking the truth and demanding accountability, while her critics charge her with sowing discord and passing judgment. Here's the worst part, though. There are rumors of deeper conflicts behind the scenes, beyond the public pronouncements, with some insiders speculating that this dispute might be a component of a wider power struggle within the gospel ministry community. We'll examine Brian Kay, J. Drew Sheard, and Bishop Gates' responses to these charges in the following part, as well as what they say about the continuous conflict over influence and holiness. The gospel community anxiously anticipated the reactions of the three key players in the dispute following Prophet Robbie Warren's audacious and unyielding criticism. Bishop Gates, J. Drew Sheard, and Brian Kay. This developing drama has been significantly shaped by their responses, and quiet. Brian Kay's answer. Brian Kay, who is well known for his strong vocals and extensive background in gospel music, used a cautious strategy. He highlighted in public remarks his dedication to personal holiness and his goal of setting an example via his ministry and music. Kay emphasized the value of grace and ongoing spiritual development while acknowledging that nobody is flawless. He urged gospel musicians to stand together, emphasizing that although accountability is important, it must be weighed against compassion and love. Many interpreted his statement as an attempt to maintain his spiritual integrity while easing tensions. The position of J. Drew Sheard. In interviews and social media posts, preacher and gospel musician J. Drew Sheard offered a response based on introspection and humility. He acknowledged the necessity of introspection and stated that he was receptive to prophetic criticism, but he also questioned Robbie Warren's criticism's timing and public nature, arguing that such issues might be better addressed in private within the church community. Those who favor constructive discourse over confrontation in public found resonance in Sheard's response, but it also stoked the argument over whether to hold leaders responsible through discretion or transparency. Bishop Gates' role. A well-known and influential figure in gospel circles, Bishop Gates took a more subdued approach. According to insiders, he is addressing the claims privately and is concentrating on prayerful discernment, even if he hasn't released a lengthy public comment on the subject. His public quiet has been viewed in a variety of ways. While some view it as avoidance, others regard it as a sign of strength and wisdom. The greater effect. A wider conflict within the gospel community is brought to light by these disparate answers, striking a balance between grace, solidarity, and respect for individual paths, and the demands of holiness and accountability. Robbie Warren's charges have provided insight into these intricate relationships, posing challenging issues for leaders, artists, and believers alike. How can we uphold high spiritual standards without offending or discrediting people we admire? When does the public need to be held accountable, and when does it start to cause conflict? Furthermore, this dispute highlights the larger problem of how gospel ministries deal with the demands of public scrutiny, human frailties, and the demands made on spiritual leaders. Here's the cliffhanger, though. There are rumors that this debate is only getting started. Other gospel leaders who haven't yet spoken may have more insights and answers, and there might be invisible forces at work in the background. The responses from the gospel community and fans, as well as how this holiness controversy is influencing the direction of gospel music and ministry culture, will be discussed in the next section. The entire gospel community is in a frenzy as a result of Prophet Robbie Warren's strong criticism. Not just the accused gospel leaders. Conversations that go far beyond the initial accusations are being sparked by the opinions of fans, other ministers, and industry insiders. Fervent arguments, conflicting allegiances, and fan reactions. Supporters of opposing viewpoints vehemently defend their positions on social media platforms, which have become into battlefields. On the one hand, Robbie Warren's fearlessness is praised by many followers, who view her as a gutsy truth-teller who isn't hesitant to call out apparent compromise. These proponents contend that in order for gospel music and ministry to continue being genuine and influential, the highest standards must be maintained. However, A sizable section of the gospel audience believes Robbie's strategy is excessively harsh and polarizing. They contend that public humiliation could undermine church unity and that the accused leaders have made significant contributions to the gospel landscape. Instead of public hostility, this group advocates for understanding, grace, and personal responsibility. People's intense interest in this dispute is evident from the heated discussions that have even spread to fan forums, live streams, and comment sections. Ministers and gospel industry experts are also responding, as are other ministers and industry voices. Robbie Warren's position on holiness has garnered support from certain other leaders, who have emphasized the necessity for prophetic voices that challenge complacency. Others advise against public arguments, pointing out that when internal conflicts are expressed in public, the church's reputation may suffer. In order to maintain unity and keep the gospel's message front and center, they support reconciliation and behind-the-scenes communication. This gap is a reflection of a larger conflict among religious communities over how to deal with accountability and criticism, a delicate balancing act between speaking the truth and preserving relationships. The wider ramifications for ministry culture and gospel music. There is more to this debate than a simple personality conflict. It marks a turning point in the culture of ministry and gospel music. What holiness means in the modern society and how spiritual leaders should handle public scrutiny are topics of discussion. Is holiness a foundation that cannot be compromised, or is it an antiquated ideal? How do clergymen strike a balance between their own shortcomings and the demands of their followers and congregations, without sacrificing biblical principles? What part does cultural relevance play? Individual ministries, the development of gospel music as a genre, and the place of the church in society will all be influenced by the responses to these issues. What comes next? Many people are keeping an eye on this debate to see if it will result in significant reform or widen already existing gaps. Will it encourage evangelists to renew their commitment to holiness in fresh, powerful ways? Or will it exacerbate current disputes that divert attention from the main objective? Here's an intriguing point to think about. Rumor has it that the consequences from this argument will continue to echo through the gospel community for months to come, with insiders whispering about impending projects and collaborations that might either heal or reopen wounds. The lessons to be learned from this disagreement and what every gospel fan and believer should remember going forward will be discussed in the next part. It's important to consider the deeper lessons that Prophet Robbie Warren's confrontation with Bishop Gates, J. Drew Sheard, and Brian K. contained when the dust settles on this contentious issue. There are important lessons for leaders, gospel music listeners, and believers alike that go beyond the public controversy and the drama. The first is the constant exhortation to holiness. A timeless truth lies at the core of Robbie Warren's message. The core of the Christian religion is still the call to holiness. Her courageous stance serves as a reminder that holiness is not negotiable in a time when cultural trends frequently impact church activities. Being holy is leading a life that is distinguished by honesty, deference to God's will, and obedience. It pushes followers and leaders to reflect on their behavior and reasons while adhering to godly spiritual standards. Regardless of whether one supports Robbie's strategy or not, her insistence on going back to these core ideas challenges the church to consider whether it is actually exhibiting holiness in the modern world. The second is the significance of accountability. The necessity of accountability in ministry is shown by this dispute. Spiritual leaders have a lot of power, and that power comes with duty. Though contentious, Robbie's charges demonstrate the crucial role of prophetic voices that hold leaders accountable not to undermine them, but to uplift them in the truth. In order to create situations where leaders can develop without worrying about unfair censure, accountability should be pursued with humility and grace. However, in order to preserve the legitimacy of the gospel message, it must also be strong enough to confront actual concessions or shortcomings. Third, the harmony of grace and truth. Finding a balance between being truthful and being gracious is one of the most difficult lessons to be learned from this incident. Robbie Warren's unvarnished criticism provoked significant debates, but it was also criticized for its public nature and tone. In order to prevent needless divisiveness, the church must figure out how to face harsh realities in a caring manner. This entails fostering discussions that promote reconciliation and repentance as opposed to condemnation and estrangement. Managing public scrutiny in the digital era is the fourth. The gospel community today functions under the close scrutiny of instant messaging and social media. In a matter of seconds, every utterance, error, or disagreement can reach millions of people. Both leaders and followers must be wise in this setting. In the midst of dispute, it is wise to interact calmly, refrain from impulsive responses, and look for understanding. The fifth is the influence of prophetic voices. Lastly, Robbie Warren's participation serves as a reminder of the need of prophetic voices in the church. Prophets hold the body accountable by frequently expressing difficult realities that others shun. Even though not everyone may agree with their strategies, prophetic voices ensure that the church never stops working toward its ultimate calling by inspiring renewal and challenging complacency. There are more than simply individuals involved in this dispute. It is an appeal to the whole gospel community to renew their commitment to unity, holiness, and accountability. It encourages growth and transformation by allowing believers to confront challenging challenges head-on. Stay involved, stay aware, and most importantly, keep your heart open to what God might be teaching you during these trying times as the drama plays out.